I 100% agree that the United States owes the black community reparations, and this is why. It's not about white people owing black people. It's not about white people being punished for the sins of our ancestors. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's about white people standing in solidarity with a community that has suffered grave, egregious injustices at the hands of the United States government. But first, we must decenter ourselves in this conversation, alienate ourselves from our privilege, and hold the United States institutions and systems accountable for the wrongs that they never rectified. From slavery to black codes, to convict leasing, to Jim Crow segregation, to anti-black housing policies, to mass incarceration, we have never rectified our wrongs as a country. If you look at our criminal justice system, 1 in 3 black males carry convicted felon label. That is a real stat. Is it because they're inherently evil, or they just need more personal accountability, or is there something larger at play? All the data shows, by every statistical measure, the black community has been disproportionately impacted by every institution or system in the United States, from education to healthcare to criminal justice system to banking to housing, which we still have de jure segregation in effect today. And when it comes to housing, neither parties are absolved from this because both parties were responsible for the de jure segregation that we see today. The New Deal by Franklin Roosevelt didn't invent the segregationist practice of housing, but it did institutionalize it. Restricting access to capital for black families while enriching white families, the big reason why we see the generational wealth gap we see today. And remember, public housing wasn't initially for poor people, it was for working class white families. But because of laws and policies implemented by the United States government, it reinforced segregation because public housing was to reflect the racial composition of the existing neighborhood. And we had redlining and gentrification of neighborhoods, the residual effects of all these policies that we still see today. Reparations is about rebuilding and investing in the black community. Our government was held accountable to some extent for the grave injustices that we committed, the atrocities that we committed against Native Americans. We were also held accountable for the Japanese internment camps. But the United States government never made good on its 40 acres and a mule to the black community. Everybody else got paid. The United States was held accountable for these injustices. I'm a convicted felon. I had to pay a debt to society, to the United States government, to the state of Florida for the crimes that I committed. I was held accountable. To this day, my past is still being used against me. In fact, if I were to go before a judge today, the first thing he would do is bring up my past and say it's probably a pretty good indicator of what my future will be. But we don't keep that same energy for our government. We don't hold them to the same level of accountability and to the same level of scrutiny. So if you're thinking to yourself, I don't know anybody, you're absolutely right. But our government does. And as citizens of the United States who uphold the Constitution, it is our duty, it is our responsibility to hold our government accountable. As taxpayers, as citizens of the United States, we all pay, not just white people. Anytime there's an injustice in the United States by a government agency, whether it's the police department, sheriff's department, any government agency, the taxpayers are always the ones that foot the bill. Why? Because in America, we believe in justice, or at least we say we do. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, I'm sure we can all agree that our government is corrupt. Stop allowing them to make us turn on each other. What better way to stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters than to advocate to make right what has been wrong and never been rectified? People ask me all the time, what are my solutions to the problems that I speak on? Well, I can assure you that this would be a step in the right direction. This is the pathway forward.
African countries welcomed white people in when white people forced their way in, colonized much of the continent, committed genocide, mass unalivings, resource extraction and destruction, slavery, forced labor of the native Africans. This can't be a real question.
I'm sorry that it has taken tens of thousands of deaths and the imminent death of 14,000 starving babies, just so that the European Commission can agree to review an association agreement that should have been suspended years ago. I'm sorry that the EU countries continue to send the bombs and weapons that shred your children to pieces, and that there's no accountability for their complicity in your mass murder. I'm sorry that over a year after the ICJ ruled that there was a credible risk of genocide against your people, EU leaders have failed to agree a single sanction. I'm sorry that EU leaders have refused to enforce the ICC arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, the war criminals responsible for the genocide against you. I'm sorry that you are starving while a few kilometres away Zionists dine in the finest restaurants. I am sorry that the EU's complicity and the moral cowardice of our leaders have resulted in your childhoods being stolen, your bodies being starved and broken, and your brutal murder. I want you to know that the public stand with you. We stand with you against the complicity of our leaders. Outside these institutions, people are making it clear they will never accept the normalisation of genocide or the violation of international law.
Africa was never civilized. But who gave them the right to define civilization? The same people who burned women for witchcraft, while Africans practiced astronomy, medicine, and more. Europe defined civilization as white skin, stone buildings, and gunpowder. So when they saw Timbuktu's libraries, Ethiopia's infrastructure, or the legal systems of Ashanti, they ignored it because it didn't look like them. But African civilization wasn't about domination, it was about balance, with nature, with people, with spirit. Europe colonized, enslaved, and conquered, and then called it progress. They measured humanity in how much land you could steal and how many bodies you could bury. So no, Africa wasn't uncivilized. It just didn't look like their version of power. And maybe that is why they had to destroy it. Because deep down they feared that it was more human than anything that they've built before.
White people, let's talk about it. Let's talk about our violence. White violence. No more deflecting, no more blaming everything on everybody else. Let's confront ourselves. White people in America, our history is so extremely violent. And instead of confronting that, we continue to blame other people for the issues and the problems in this country, instead of just taking ownership of our part to play in everything, which is a huge part. Can we stop scapegoating other groups of people, please, and just look at ourselves? White people, it's time to talk about it. Like, it's long past time. Getting rid of other groups of people in this country is not going to make this country better. It's not going to make your life better. It's not going to make you better. I think white people are so scared to talk about race and to talk about white violence and white supremacy because they don't want to connect themselves to it. We don't want to feel like we're a part of the problem. But unless you're acknowledging the reality of how the US, this country, runs, you are a part of the problem. I truly believe in my heart, in my soul, that if you're born a white person in this country or on this planet, but I'll just speak about this country, part of that journey is to dismantle systems that have been built to oppress other people. The hard work of life is to confront yourself. How do I benefit from the way that things are? And how does my benefiting from those things harm other people? And instead of walking around with, 1,000-pound bag of shame on your back, consider it your responsibility to do that work. Consider it an opportunity that you are in the best possible position to make this world a better place by not accepting racist and prejudiced and oppressive systems for what they are and trying to contribute to changing them. Use the privilege that you have for good. I don't think that anybody can ever really love themselves without being honest about themselves, without being honest with themselves. And that work is painful and hard, but it's so worth it. White people, You don't have to consciously think that you're better than other people in order to contribute to harm against them. All it takes to contribute to harm is to stay silent and disengaged. White people, can we finally get this shit right? Can we finally take accountability? Can we finally look ourselves in the mirror and decide that this isn't good enough? We're not doing a good enough job. You aren't losing because somebody else is safe and cared for. You aren't losing because somebody different than you exists. White people, let's talk about it. Let's start having these conversations with ourselves and with each other.
Wow. All right. Welcome back, people. Why do you think this is happening today? Why do you think today the people are coming out without being forced, without being not at the gunpoint, not being harassed, for them to come and admit the truth? Why do you think so? Because today I've seen many Europeans, many Westerners coming out to admit their truth, to speak how the system were lied to them, how they were lied about Africans and the black people, because most of them grew up knowing that the black people were some creatures, but not the people just like them. They grow up knowing that the black were not people to associate with. That's why many of them grew up supporting everything that the white system introduced against the black. That's why many of the white people came out to support the oppression, to support the segregation, to support the Jim Crow laws. All that came out in the name of oppressing the black people, they came out to cheer loud, to celebrate, and to justify how they hated the whites or the blacks with passion. Now, if you be asked today why these people are coming out to admit all this, personally, I can say that this is not accidentally. This is a spiritual awakening, and this is a prophecy that was placed there by many people who were enslaved in Europe, in America, in Britain. Because let's not forget how the life was so brutally to the people who were enslaved. And now, today, we've seen several times the white people are coming out to ditch their own system and try to explain what they feel. Because today, I believe that everyone who is coming out to speak the truth, everyone who is coming out to admit, and for those who are coming to ask for forgiveness, to apologize, they are doing this because these are the only people who are different from others, who are different from a majority, who are different, and these are the people who have come to know the truth, who have come to learn about the history, and who have come to know, who wanted to know their existence and everything about themselves. That's why today you are watching, despite being a trained or raised in a certain way of life, in a certain system that only taught them only how to hate the blacks, they're coming out to address in a different perspectives, different matters. They're coming out to address in different ways, because for the past years we never expected this. We never saw this coming. But I remember the time, I remember Pierre Lumumba said that this time, things are happening in a mysterious way, whereby there's some white people who are even who don't even know themselves, who don't know all that is happening, because the truth has come out. So things are happening in a way that it's like they were found, they were found ready-handed. They were found in a position whereby they cannot escape this. That's why today it's like now the history is turning against them. The history is repeating itself. I normally like to go through back to the history, because everything that I speak and everything that I know, I always prefer to the history, because without history, without blacks being enslaved, maybe some of us or many of us will have not been coming here to speak about all this. But we come here to speak. Today we speak about the colonial, we speak about the enslavement, we speak about the black Americans and the white Americans, we speak about the segregation, because of all that happened in Africa. Because if those foreigners would have not come here in Africa, chose with their ships to transport Africans, to buy Africans just like goods, then I believe that we could have not been coming here to speak about this. But because they came in Africa, they tested what Africa is, and they feel like they cannot leave this. because it was so nice to them. They keep on building, destroying Africa, building their own, stealing and looting, oppressing other people, funding crisis and chaos, causing problems in Africa, causing damages just for them to benefit. So for those people who have lived under American policies, under white systems, they can testify you this. That's why some of them are coming out today, the black people, to speak their way, their feelings, that they're not about they're not about what, but a revenge or anything, but they are just here because they want their freedom. They want they want to be free. So today, all the Europeans who are coming out, they are the people who are speaking directly from their heart, and they feel they're guilty. They feel how they have been oppressing and how they have been treating the black people. They feel how their system kept on oppressing other people and looking down towards them just like slaves, but not the people who deserved respect. So we've seen not only the black people or the black Americans coming to Africa, but we've seen many white Americans ditching the American land and coming back to Africa, relocating to Africa, because they know. And if you have ever gone through the history, you know that that Africa is the dreamland. This a perspective of maybe people saying that Europe or America is better than Africa. This was just something that was placed there by Europeans, which was just to make us believe that we as Africans, we are not the best people, and Africa was not the best place for us. So that's why you see, even for the people who get out of schools in Africa, the people who graduate, the first thing they think is about how they can go to America, how they can go to Europe, because they were taught to believe that America is the only place that that we can say that it's a land of opportunity. America is the only place that you can make life, that the life of your dream. America is the only place that was for the green pastures. And I always ask this question: if that was true, how many, if you walk across Africa, across oceans, how many white people do you see? How many Americans do you see in Africa? If Africa was bad place and worst place as how we were told, then why are they spending much millions and thousands of dollars and euros to come here in Africa? If Africa was very bad place as how they call it, as how they refer that Africa is a dirty place, why do they spend much dollars and euros to come here in Africa? Because I believe that if you cannot just ditch your place to go in a place that it's believed that to be bad, to be dirty, to be bad, and at the same time the people from that place are relocating to your place. Many Africans, young ladies and boys, are relocating to Africa to go and work in Europe because they're in museums. We don't only speak about exploitation. We don't only speak about the white policies and white systems, but they stole even our spiritual. They did all this just in a way to make us feel oppressed, feel betrayed. Because today, when you take a look at the situation of Africans and the people who have not yet knew their truth or their history, they are suffering because they don't know who they are. Today, when I find any African thinking of going to Europe, I feel like this man or this woman need to be delivered, because she or he is doing the bad or the wrong decision. For the person who have yet gone through the history and you know what you are doing and you know what you want to do, you don't have to think about that. That's why we always speak about the great people like Patrice Lumumba, Kwame Nkrumah, Malcolm X. They were killed because of speaking the truth. They were killed because they were there to expose the truth, to awaken Africans, to stop the influence of the foreign influence, foreign policies. Because let me tell you something. If the Africans who lived ancient days, who lived during the time of Kwame Nkrumah, Muammar Gaddafi, Patrice Lumumba, they would have known the truth that some of us know today, then Africa would have been delivered and would have been saved long time ago. If the Africans who lived those days would have known the truth, they would have not allowed Muammar Gaddafi to be assassinated, Patrice Lumumba to be taken down. They would have not allowed such incident to happen. But because they never knew the truth, that's why during the time Obama announced the death of Muammar Gaddafi in Washington, people from Libya celebrated. they cheered because they were fooled, they were brainwashed. They were told that Gaddafi was a terrorist leader. So they were ready to surrender him or give him out to be killed. The same has happened in West Africa, in Sahel region. We saw during the time the time Ibrahim Traore has been hunted that day and night. They wanted to take him down, but because today the Africans who are living today, they know the truth. They know everything that happened those days. They know today that these people were never there for us, but we're here just to convince and brainwash Africans so that they can benefit and get whatever they want in Africa. That's why it has been very hard to eliminate Captain Ibrahim Traore and other Sahel leaders. So today, when we come here to speak about this, about the African unity and the African independent freedom, we speak it with courage because we know who we are. We know what we want. We know where we came from. We know how we are speaking on the back of our history. We are speaking on the back of our truth and our truth. Today, the history I always believe that when I come here to speak, I'm not alone, but I am with the spirits of my great ancestors, the people who believed in freedom, the people who believe that one day, a day like this will come. Today we are watching the great empires crumbling, suffering. Because when you go today in France, despite having the greatest and strongest weapons, their people today are out of control. Their countries and their governments are bankrupt. Because they used to build themselves on back of other people. They used to build themselves through the sweat, the torture, and the blood of the innocent Africans. But because Africans today say that enough is enough and no to exploitation, that's why we're watching things are happening in a mysterious way. We call this a revolution. We call this a change. We call this the black unity because it was prophesied. It was expected that will come to happen. That's why you are watching people coming out to speak the truth, to apologize, because this was something that was expected and was planned that will come to happen. Nothing today is happening accidentally. It is happening because the people who used to be oppressed are no longer ready to be oppressed, are no longer ready to be compressed. But the people who knew the truth behind them, they are the people who knew their existence, and they are fighting to regain their dignity and reclaim their originality. Today, we as the black people, we are standing firm to say that we need our artifacts which have been put in Europe on displays. We need our arts, we need our heritages, because that is what defines the true black man. That is what really defines the unity in the black and our culture. So I will leave you in suspense. Tell me what you have in the comment section, because I'm here to make sure that we move together, we speak unity, and we are here to push the agenda of unity, because we are here to achieve the agenda of Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, and Malcolm X. They died fighting for this great change that we are pushing today. So may you be blessed watching from. I love and appreciate your support for being here each and every day. I appreciate your support. You are doing great. Let's meet on the next episode on the comment section and really know what's supposed to be done for us to build this great continent. And may you be blessed watching from. I love and appreciate, and be blessed.